Moving on to Pointly from the month of February. Now, Groningen gas fields, Netherlands. It is a natural gas field in Groningen province of the northeastern Netherlands. It is largest natural gas field in Europe and one of the largest in the world. Now, the gas field was discovered in 1959. Gas extractions in the Groningen gas fields resulted in subsidence above the field. From 1991, this was also accompanied by earthquakes. This led to damage to houses and unrest among the residents. Now, the Netherlands has planned to shut down the field by the end of 2023. Moving on to earthquake in Turkey. An earthquake of the magnitude of 7.8 struck south central Turkey and northwestern Syria. The epicenter was 37 kilometers west north of Gaziantep in Turkey. It was one of the largest strike-slip earthquake to occur on continent in recent time. The earthquake was created by the northward movement of Arabian plate and the grinding against the Anatolian plate. The earthquake has reportedly killed more than 46,000 people in Turkey and 6,600 people in Syria. Now, the region is the East Anatolian fault over here. The Arabian fault is moving upwards, and the Eurasian fault is moving downwards, causing a strike-slip motion in the East Anatolian fault. And the Anatolian microplate is pushing towards Aegean microplate, which is in turn pushed by the African plate upwards. The countries to consider here are Syria, Turkey, Cyprus, and Lebanon. Now, moving on to Operation Dost. India launched Operation Dost to extend assistance and provide relief to Turkey and Syria after the earthquake. Under the operation, India has sent search and rescue teams, including 3 teams of NDRF, a field hospital, materials, medicines, and equipments to Turkey and Syria. Moving on to India, France, UAE trilateral. India, France, and UAE have announced the creation of a formal trilateral cooperation initiative. The Trilateral Cooperation Initiative will act as a platform to work together in fields of nuclear, solar energy, tackling climate change, and preserving biodiversity. It will also work together in defense, countering infectious disease, and promoting cooperation in global health organizations such as WHO, Gavi, which is the Vaccine Alliance, and the Global Fund, and UNITAD. Moving on to Global Biofuel Alliance, India, Brazil, and the US will work towards establishing Global Biofuels Alliance. They are leading biofuel producers and consumers. Now, its aim will be to facilitate cooperation and intensify the use of sustainable biofuels. The alliance will emphasize on strengthening markets, facilitating global biofuel trade, and provision of technical support for national biofuels program worldwide. It will collaborate with relevant agencies and initiatives in the bioenergy, bioeconomy, and energy transition fields like BioFuture Platform, the Mission Innovation Bioenergy Initiative, and Global Bioenergy Partnership. Moving on to Global Bioenergy Partnership, it was founded in 2006. Global Bioenergy Partnership brings together public, private, and civil society stakeholders in a joint commitment to promote bioenergy for sustainable development. The partnership focuses its activities on 3 strategic areas, that is sustainable development, climate change, food and energy security. India is one of the observer countries. Moving on to Italian hydroelectric project, it is envisaged as a run-of-the-river scheme on rivers Dri and Tangon in Dibang Valley district of Arunachal Pradesh. Now, Dir and Tangon are both tributaries of Dibang River, which is again a tributary of Brahmaputra. The project will require the diversion of 1,165 hectares of forest land and the felling of more than 280,000 trees. The project would displace thousands of people, many from indigenous communities. Now, the South Asian Network of Dams, Rivers and People has highlighted the geological and seismic risk and threats to biodiversity. The project has been scrapped in the present form. So the position of the project was supposed to be over here. Now it is in the lower Dibang Valley district, and it lies at the junction of Dibang Valley district and lower Dibang Valley district. And the Lohit district is adjacent to it, and the Brahmaputra is being joined in Assam. On the west side is the East Siang district. Now, moving on to exercise Tarkash, it is a counter-terrorism exercise between India's National Security Guards and US Special Operation Forces. For the first time, exercise included chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear terror response in its drill. Moving on to Operation Sadbhavna. Operation Sadbhavna, which is Goodwill, is a humane initiative undertaken by the Indian Army in Ladakh. The focus of the operation is to improve core social indices of education, women, youth empowerment, and healthcare, with simultaneous thrust on capacity building through the implementation of community infrastructure development projects. Indian Army is running 7 Army Goodwill schools in Ladakh region with more than 2,200 students. Moving on to tethered drones. A tethered drone is an unmanned aerial vehicle tethered to the ground. It consists of a base station on the ground and the drone, which is connected to the station through the tether, that is a cable. Now, the tethered drone can be operated remotely to perform specific tasks. It can be used for surveillance of targets beyond the line of sight for prolonged period. They can also be launched in an untethered mode for certain durations to confirm inputs. Now, tethered drones are perfect for data capture and telemetry due to reliability of tethered connections. Now, tethered drone dramatically reduce technical and human errors, crashes in flight. A tethered drone can fly over limited area because of greater control. Their operation does not require a trained pilot. It also does not require GPS navigation. Now, moving on to jetpack suits. A jetpack is a device worn on the back which uses jets or gas or liquid to propel the wearer through the air. The Indian Army said it wanted to procure jetpack suits that can lift a person safely across deserts, mountains, and high altitude areas of height 3,000 meters. Now, the Indian Army has floated requests for proposals for procurement of 48 jetpack suits and 130 tethered drones as part of its modernization drive. Moving on to SSLV Development 2, ISRO has successfully launched the second development flight of small satellite launch vehicle. It placed 3 satellites in a precise orbit. These are ISRO's Earth Observational Satellite, that is EOS-7, US-based firms Antares Juanas 1, Chennai-based space startup SpaceKit's Azadi Sat-2. Now, SSLV D1 is considered as a partial failure as it failed to place the satellites in desired orbit because of a shortfall in velocity. Moving on to Azadi satellite, it has been designed by 750 girl students for 75 schools across rural India. The satellite weighs around 8 kilograms and has 75 small experiments. It will carry a recorded version of the national anthem sung by Rabindranath Tagore, which will be played in space as a tribute to the country. The satellite is a result of ISRO pushing for girls to take up science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, that is STEM. Moving on to North Star, the North Star is also known as Pole Star. It is a very bright star, 2500 times more luminous than Sun. It is part of the constellation Ursa Minor, and is around 323 light years away from Earth. The North Star is less than 1 degree away from the north celestial pole, almost in direct line with the Earth's rotational axis. It appears to sit motionless in the northern sky, with all the other stars appearing to rotate around it. Its position and brightness have allowed humans to use it for navigation since late antiquity. The elevation of the star above the horizon gives approximate latitude of the observer. However, upon crossing the equator to the south, North Star is lost over the horizon and hence stopped being a useful navigation aid. Moving on to kilonova. Kilonova is a cosmic event that occurs when a neutron star smashes into another neutron star or a black hole. It releases heavy radiation and heavy metals like gold, silver, selenium into outer space at tremendous velocities. A kilonova radiation also accompanies a gamma ray burst. Moving on to neutron star. Neutron stars are formed when a massive star runs out of fuel and collapses. The core, that is the central region of the star, collapses, crushing together every proton and electron into a neutron. If the core of the collapsing star is between 1 to 3 solar masses, the newly created neutrons can stop the collapse, leaving behind a neutron star. Many neutron stars are likely undetectable because they do not emit enough radiation. Moving on to natural satellites of Jupiter. Jupiter now has the largest number of moons orbiting it. Scientists have discovered 12 new moons, bringing the total moons orbiting Jupiter to 92. The first 4 moons discovered are called Galilean moons, which are Io, Europa, Callisto, and Ganymede. The newly discovered moons are small and far away from Jupiter, taking more than 340 days to orbit Jupiter. Many of the new moons have retrograde orbit. They orbit in opposite direction of the inner moons. This hints at the fact that Jupiter probably captured these moons. It is likely that the smaller moons were probably formed from larger objects fragmented by collisions. Moving on to Quaoar. Quaoar is a dwarf planet in the Kuiper Belt. Kuiper Belt is a flat ring of small icy bodies that revolve around the Sun beyond orbit of planet Neptune. The Quaoar is roughly 1/12 the diameter of Earth. Its surface is composed of low-density ice mixed with rock. It revolves around Sun in roughly circular orbit once every 288 years. Signs of water ice on surface of Quaoar have been found, which suggests that cryovolcanism may be occurring on Quaoar. Astronomers have spotted a ring around Quaoar. Moving on to Green Comet, that is Comet C, 2022 E3. Now, Comet C is popularly known as Green Comet. It last visited Earth's neighborhood 50,000 years ago. Green Comet is believed to come from Oort cloud. Now, Oort cloud is the theorized cloud of predominantly icy planetesimal proposed to surround the Sun at a distance ranging from 0.03 to 3.2 light years. Moving on to comets. Comets are frozen rocky or gas-filled objects that are remnants of formation of the solar system. Comets revolve around Sun in a very large orbit. NASA explains that as comets orbit near the Earth, they heat up and spew gases and dust into a glowing head that can be larger than a planet. The remains of dust look like a trail of light. Green light is caused due to the presence of diatomic carbon in the head of the comet. The molecule emit green light when excited by ultraviolet rays and solar radiation. Moving on to muons. Muons are subatomic particles. They are created when cosmic rays from the outer space collide with particle in Earth's atmosphere. Approximately 10,000 muons reach every square meter of Earth's surface a minute. Muons resemble electrons but are 207 times as massive, called fat electrons. They can travel through hundreds of meters of rock or other matters before getting absorbed or decaying into electron and neutrino. Muons exist for just 2.2 microseconds. Moving on to muon tomography or muonography. Now, muonography is conceptually similar to X-ray scans but capable of scanning much larger and wider structures. As muons are naturally produced and present almost everywhere, placing a muon detector underneath the object to be scanned is sufficient. The detector tracks the number of muons going through the object from different directions to form a 3D image. The image is then compared with the muon image of free sky. This indicates how many muons have been blocked. Muon tomography has been used in archaeology to peek inside pyramids in Egypt or examining the fortress wall of Xi'an, an ancient city in China. It is also used in customs security, internal imaging of volcanoes, among other. Now, let's look at the structure of the pyramid of Khufu. Now, there was a king chamber, previously unknown void, which was discovered in 2017 with muon detectors. And here is the queen's chamber, and this is the grand gallery. Now, moving on to neuromorphic computing. It is a method of computer engineering in which elements of the computer are modeled after systems in human brain and nervous system. In traditional computers, memory stage is physically separated from the processing unit, so data transfer takes more time and energy. The human brain, a supreme biological computer, is smaller and more efficient due to presence of a synapse, the connection between two neurons that plays the role of both processor and memory storage unit. In neuromorphic computing, the hardware mimics a biological synapse and the monitor and remembers the signals generated by the stimuli. Neuromorphic computing uses artificial neural networks. Neuromorphic computers are more efficient and use less energy. Scientists of Bangalore Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research have developed new hardware for neuromorphic computing by using scandium nitride in a device to mimic a synapse. Moving on to quasi-crystals, the structure of quasi-crystal is between precise pattern of crystals, that is a regular arrangement of atoms, and amorphous solid, that is irregular arrangement. In quasi-crystals, the atoms are arranged in a pattern that repeats itself at irregular yet predictable intervals. Now, quasi-crystals have poor heat conductivity, hence they are good insulators. They can be used in surgical instruments, LED lights, and non-stick frying pans. Other potential applications include selective solar absorbers for power conversion, broad wavelength reflector, and bone repair and prosthesis application. Moving on to micro LED display, Apple is reportedly shifting to micro LED display technology. Micro LED is a technology that helps a display to produce brighter and higher contrast image that are not possible with other known technologies like OLED. A micro LED panels format has multiple advantages, which include increased brightness, better color reproduction and viewing angles, longer lifespan, and lower power consumption. The basis of micro LED technology is Sapphire. Moving on to Bar OS, IIT Madras incubated company has recently developed the Bar OS system. It is an indigenous or homegrown mobile operating system like Android or iOS. It has been developed to reduce the dependence on foreign operating systems in smartphones. Now, Bar OS would offer native over-the-air updates, meaning the security updates and bug fixes will be automatically installed rather than users having to check for updates and implement them on their own. It also has no default app settings. Users do not have to keep or use pre-installed app in this mobile operating system. Technically, Bar OS is very similar to Android because they share the same basics. Moving on to definition of broadband and wide gray spots. According to new definitions, broadband is a data connection that is able to support interactive services and has the capability of minimum download speeds of 2 Mbps to an individual subscriber. Earlier, the minimum download speed was 512 kbps. Now, places without cellular connectivity are called white spots. Places which show being connected but may not let users get enough out of their access, like poor speed, are called gray spots. Moving on to air quality monitoring system, that is AIAQMS version 1.0, the Union Ministry for Electronics and Information Technology has launched the Air Quality Monitoring System version 1.0. It has been developed by Center for Development of Advanced Computing, that is CDAC, Kolkata, in collaboration with ISN Dhanbad. It is an outdoor air quality monitoring station to monitor environmental pollutions like PM 1.0, PM 2.5, and PM 10, sulfur dioxide, nitrous dioxide, carbon monoxide, oxygen, ambient temperature, relative humidity, etc. It has been funded under the National Programs on Electronics and ICT Applications in Agriculture and Environment. Agri-ENIACS is a national level program initiated to reform the agriculture and environment sector with interventions of IoT, ICT, machine learning, and robotics technology. Moving on to R-ASMAN, the Delhi government has launched R-ASMAN, Real-Time Advanced Air Source Management Network. The website has launched to provide real-time data on the source of air pollution in the city. This is expected to help Delhi government frame effective policies to curb it. Moving on to nitrate radicals. Nitrate radical is an oxide of nitrogen that consists of 3 oxygen atoms bound to a nitrogen atom. Now, nitrate radical oxidizes gas pollutants such as volatile organic compounds, that is VOCs. These VOCs generate ozone, secondary organic aerosols, deteriorating air quality. Now, ozone is an air pollutant that affects human health and crop yield. Secondary organic aerosol is an important component of PM 2.5. And a study has found that certain regions of China and India are nighttime hotspots for generation of nitrate radicals. Most VOCs come from vehicle exhausts and industrial processes. Now, moving on to Yayaso. Yayaso has been proposed as Ladakh's first biodiversity heritage site. Yayaso is located in Ladakh. It is known as a bird's paradise for its beautiful lake located at altitude of 4,820 meters. It is a nesting habitat for a large number of birds and animals such as bar-headed goose, black-necked crane, and Brahmini duck. It also has the distinction of being one of the most highest breeding sites of black-necked crane in India. So Yayaso is located somewhere over here. Fakochi, Loma, Bunti are surrounding this area, and River Indus flows through this. Somorori. So Yayaso is located near to Somorori, and Hanle is also around this region only. Moving on to BHS. Now, biodiversity heritage sites are considered unique and fragile ecosystems. They can be marine, ecosystem, coastal, or terrestrial. The criteria to declare BHS include richness of species, high endemism, presence of rare and threatened species, keystone species, species of evolutionary significance, etc. Under Section 37 of Biological Diversity Act of 2002, the state government, in consultation with local bodies, may notify area of biodiversity importance as biodiversity heritage site. Now, moving on to progress under Green India Mission. From 2015-16 to 2021-22, the Union government have approved a target of increasing tree cover by 53,377 hectares and improving the air quality of degraded forests by 1,66,656 hectares. However, as of December 2022, tree forest cover has increased only by 26,287 hectares, 49% of the target, and the forest quality improved only by 1,02,096 hectares, that is 61% of the target. Now, the states with significant shortfall in tree cover include Andhra Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Madhya Pradesh, and Kerala. Moving on to National Mission for a Green India. It is one of the 8 missions under National Action Plan on Climate Change. Its aim is to protect, restore, and enhance India's forest cover and respond to climate change. The target under mission is 10 million hectares on forest and non-forest lands for increasing the forest and tree covers and improving the quality of existing forest. Improving tree covers is crucial to sequester carbon and bolster India's carbon stock as part of its climate action commitment. Moving on to E20 fuel. E20 is a blend of 20% ethanol and 80% petrol. India has already met its E10 target, that is 10% ethanol. The government now aims to achieve a complete 20% blending of ethanol by 2025. Moving on to Save Wetlands campaign, the Union Minister for Environment has launched the Save Wetland campaign. The campaign is structured on a whole of society approach for wetland conservation, enabling affirmative actions for wetland conservation at all levels of the society. It will include sensitizing people about value of wetlands, increasing coverage of wetland mitras, and building citizen partnerships for wetland conservation. Moving on to Mission Sabhagita, it was launched by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in 2022. Its aim is to effectively manage the network of 75 wetlands of national and international significance. Moving on to World Wetlands Day. World Wetlands Day is observed on 2nd February every year worldwide to commemorate the signing of Ramsar Convention on Wetlands of International Importance in 1971. Now, India has been a party to the convention since 1982 and has so far declared 75 wetlands as Ramsar sites. The theme for 2023 is wetland restoration, which highlights the urgent need to prioritize wetland restorations. Moving on to 5th International Marine Protected Area Congress, it was held in Canada in order to discuss the solutions to address the funding gap of marine protected areas. Experts said that approximately 10 million square kilometers of the oceans must be annually brought under the marine protected areas to protect 30% of the world's ocean by 2030, which is a target under COP15 of CBD. Now, 70% of the marine protected areas are underfunded. Countries also discussed ways to comprehensively monitor the effectiveness of protected area. Moving on to marine protected areas are areas of the ocean set aside for long-term conservation aims. Now, MPA offer nature-based solutions to support global effort towards climate change adaptation and mitigation. Certain activities within MPA are limited or prohibited to meet specific conservation, habitat protection, ecosystem monitoring, or fisheries management objective. MPAs can assist in restoring the productivity of the oceans and avoid further degradation. At present, MPAs represent only 6% of the ocean. Of this, 2.4% are fully and highly protected, 3.6% are highly protected. Fully protected areas prevent extractive or destructive activities, while highly protected marine protected areas allow light extractive activities. Moving on to kelp forest, a recent study has revealed that kelp forests are declining because of the climate change. Kelp forests are large brown algae seaweeds. They grow in underwater forests in shallow oceans and nutrient-rich waters. They are considered as keystone species. Now, kelp forests provide stabilizing shelter for sea otters and nutrient-rich food for their prey, such as fish and sea urchins. They help reduce coastal erosion and act as breakwater during large storms. Many kelp produce algin, a complex carbohydrate useful in industries such as tire manufacturing and ice cream industry. Moving on to yellow band disease, it is a disease that affects corals. It is named after the color it turns corals before destroying them. There is no cure for the disease. Its impact cannot be reversed, unlike the effects of chloral bleaching. Scientists believe overfishing, pollution, raising water temperature, that is climate change, may be making the reefs more vulnerable to yellow band disease. Moving on to spot-billed eagle owl. It is also known as forest eagle owl. It is a large bird of prey. Its IUCN status is least concern. It is a forest inhabiting species found across the Indian subcontinent. It is found on large trees in thick forests. It feeds on small rodents and lizards. The birds make a strange scream similar to humans. It is hence called the ghost of the forest in India and devil bird in Sri Lanka. Moving on to great squab. Now, great squab is a medium-sized diving duck species. Its IUCN status is least concern. It is disturbed in Asia, Europe, and United States and Canada. It is distributed. It is a rare visitor to Indian subcontinent. They are highly migratory, breeding near Arctic region and migrating to the warmer south from August onwards. It is known as squab in Europe, bluebill in North America. The duck was sighted in Loktak Lake in Manipur's Bishnupur district after a gap of over 90 years, called Santagam locally. Now moving on to Mahabali frog. Mahabali frog is waiting to be elevated as the state frog of Kerala. It is also known as purple frog. It is named after the mythical king Mahabali, who visits his people once a year from underneath world. Its IUCN status is near threatened. Moving on to vermins. The Wildlife Institute of India is working to develop immuno-contraceptive measures for population management of vermins. The vermins refers to nuisance creatures because they threaten human crops, livestock, or property. The Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 has 6 schedules that assign varying degree of protections to animals and plants. Under Schedule 1 and 2 of the Act, animals and birds such as tiger, elephant are offered the highest protection. Schedule 5 lists species classified as vermins, which includes common crow, fruit bats, rat, and mice, etc., which may be hunted freely. Now, Section 62 of the Act grants Union government the power to declare any wild animal as vermin. Schedule 1 and 2 species can't be declared vermins. Moving on to schemes in Union Budget 2023-24 for ecological conservation. Now, MISHTI, which is Mangrove Initiative for Shoreline Habitats and Tangible Income. It will aim at intensive afforestation of coastal mangrove forest and facilitate mangrove plantation across the coastline on salt pan lands. The program will operate through convergence between Manrega and Campa funds and other sources. Moving on to PM Pranam, it aims to reduce the use of chemical fertilizers and promote alternatives to fertilizers. It stands for PM Promotion for Alternate Nutrients for Agriculture Management Yojana, also called PM Program for Restoration, Awareness, Nourishment and Amelioration of Mother Earth. Now, Bharatiya Prakritik Kheti Bio Input Resource Center to facilitate the adoption of natural farming. 10,000 bio input resource centers will be set up, creating a national level distributed micro-fertilizers and pesticide manufacturing network. Amrit Dharohar scheme, it will be implemented over the next 3 years to encourage optimal use of wetlands. and enhance biodiversity, carbon stock, ecotourism opportunities, and income generation for local communities. The scheme will emphasize on importance of wetlands and their preservation with an outlook that is inclusive of local communities as caretakers of the ecosystem. Now, moving on to Jagannath Temple, the governor of Odisha has backed the entry of foreign nationals inside Jagannath Temple. Lord Jagannath Temple is located in Puri, Odisha. It is also known as White Pagoda. It is one of the four dhamas, that is Char Dham, where Lord Jagannath, a form of Lord Vishnu, is worshipped along with his elder brother, that is Lord Balbhadra, and sister Devi Subhadra. The temple was constructed by a famous king of the Ganga dynasty, Anantvarman Chadoganga Deva, dating back to 12th century. Now, moving on to Shaligram stone. Shaligram stone is a fossilized ammonite, a type of molluscus that lived millions of years ago. It is found in the sacred rivers of Himalayas, particularly Gandaki River in Nepal. The stone is considered to be a representation of Lord Vishnu, one of the primary deities in Hinduism, and is revered as a sacred object. The use of Shaligram stone in worship can be traced to the time of Adi Shankaracharya. Now, moving on to petroglyphs in Aravali. Now, archaeologists have discovered petroglyphs, an image that is carved into a rock in the Badshahpur area of Gurugram. Now, petroglyphs discovered in the area include graffiti and hand and footprints of humans and animals engraved on quartzite rocks. Now, archaeologists believe that these carvings are more than 10,000 years old. The Paleolithic era spans from 25 lakh years to 10,000 before present. The carbon dating markers that archaeologists use with 1950 treated as base year. Now, in 2021, the archaeological department discovered a 5,000 hectare site in Faridabad's Mangar, where cave paintings were found along with rock shelters and tools. Moving on to Charaideo Moidams. Now, Charaideo was the first capital of Ahom King of Assam. Charaideo remained the symbolic center of Ahom kingdom, even though the capital of the kingdom moved many times. A Moidam is a tumulus that is a mold of earth raised over a grave of Ahom royalty and aristocracy. The Charidao Moidams are royal burial sites of Ahom dynasty, while Charidao exclusively contains Moidams of Ahom royals. Other than Moidams of aristocracy and chiefs can be found scattered across eastern Assam. Now, Charidao Moidams were built by Chaulung Shukpa, that is the founder of the dynasty, in 1229 CE. The Union government has declared to put forth the name of Charidao Moidams in addition to UNESCO World Heritage Site list. There is currently no World Heritage Site in the category of cultural heritage in the Northeast out of the 32 listed in the country. So the district would be right over here. It is surrounded by Arunachal Pradesh and Nagaland, and it lies adjacent to Dibrugarh and Tinsukia district. Moving on, Dhamal. Dhamal is a mix of Sufi and African, mostly East African, musical and dance traditions. It refers particularly to a spiritual practice of Siddhis of Gujarat. It is performed in two ways, that is dance Dhamal and Bhaitaki Dhamal. Bhaitaki Dhamal is performed in sitting position and dance Dhamal is performed in both sitting and dance positions. The spiritual songs that are sung during Dhamals are known as Zikrs. Siddhi. The term Siddhi refers to Afro-Indians, Africans who mixed with Indians through marriage and relationships. They crossed the Indian Oceans and arrived in India during 1200s to 1400s. They were transported by Islamic invaders and Portuguese colonizers as enslaved people. Palace guards, army chiefs, harem keepers, spiritual leaders, Sufi singers, dancers, and treasurers. Today, the majority of Siddhis are found in west and southwest of India, in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana states. Moving on to Soliga community. Soliga are indigenous communities situated in Bilgiri Rangan Hills, that is BR Hills, in Chamrangar district of Karnataka. Chamarajanagar district of Karnataka. Soligas have been dependent on hunting and shifting agriculture traditionally. They are considered as first settler of India. Their home, BR Hills, was amongst the first area to be declared a wildlife sanctuary in India in 1974. In 2011, when the region was declared a tiger reserve, Soligas were the first community to win residence rights in a tiger reserve. Scientists have named a wasp species after Soligas community. Moving on to Bharat Parv, it is a 6-day event organized in Red Fort Lawn by the Ministry of Tourism. It showcases the cuisine and culture of different states of India. The festival is held annually. This year's Bharat Parv promoted millets. Moving on to Shamlang Leela, it is a traditional form of theatre in Manipur. Now, Shamlang Leela translates to courtyard performance. It is performed in an open courtyard surrounded by spectators on all four sides. The tradition is believed to be descended from Lai Haroba, a ritual of the Meiteis community of Manipur. The play serves as a medium to spread awareness among people of social, political, and economic issues. Now, Shaumang Leelas may also discuss moral values, unity, and integrity. Shaumang Leela is one of the two types, that is Nupa Shaumang Leela performed only by men and Nupi Shaumang Leela performed only by women. Moving on to Chamundi Hills, it is located in Mysore, Karnataka. Chamundeshwari temple is located in the hills. The temple is named after Chamundeshwari, which is a fierce form of Shakti. It is believed that goddess Durga slayed the demon Mahishasur on top of this hill, which was ruled by him. The place was later known as Mahishasur, that is place of Mahishasur. Mahisuru. Okay. The British changed it to Mysore and later canonized it into Mysuru. Now, Karanji Lake is the most popular lake in Chamundi Hills. Local citizens have urged the government to conserve and promote the religious sanctity and environmental integrity of Chamundi Hills. Moving on to Itikoppa toys. Itikoppa toys are traditional toys made by artisans of Itikoppa village located on the banks of Bara River in Visakhapatnam district, which is in Andhra Pradesh. Toys are made of softwood and lacquer color. Toys are colored with natural dyes derived from seeds, lacquer, roots, and leaves. The artisans mainly use woods from trees known as Anukuddu, that is soft in nature. In 2017, Itikoppa toys acquired a geographical indication tag. Moving on to demand for Tripura land. Tripura land. The new state is being demanded for the 19 indigenous tribes of Tripura. The proposed state would include the areas under Tripura Tribal Area Autonomous District Council and some other villages where the Rasa, that is indigenous people of Tripura, reside in large number. The demand for Tripura land was made by the Indigenous People Front of Tripura, that is IPFT, in 2009. Demand for greater Tripura land goes beyond TTAA CDC land areas and include at least 36 more villages where the tribal population is in the range of 20% to 36%. Moving on to India's merchandise trade, which crossed $1 trillion US dollars. Now, India's merchandise trade crossed the $1 trillion mark in the calendar year 2022, with imports worth 723 billion and exports worth 450 billion dollars. The trade deficit stood at $270 billion. Now, the US is India's biggest trade partner at $131 billion, followed by China, which stands at $118 billion. Now, India's trade deficit with China was 87 billion US dollars, while the surplus with US was about $30 billion. India's top exporters include US with $80 billion and UAE with $31 billion, Netherlands with $19 billion and China with $15 billion. India's top importers are China with $102 billion and UAE with $53 billion, US with $51 billion and Saudi Arabia with $54 billion. Now, the trend for exports is such that after 2014, we saw a dip, but it started rising. However, it was changed with pandemic and we see a kink in 2019-20. However, it is still on a progression of increasing. Similarly, with imports, we see that after 2014, it dipped and started rising after 2016 onwards. And in 2019, 20, and 2021, in wake of COVID, it decreased. However, it started increasing steadily after the pandemic restrictions were relaxed. Moving on to Global Quality Infrastructure Index, that is GQII. GQII ranks 184 economies in the world on the basis of quality of infrastructure. A formula calculates a score for each country based on its population in sub-rankings for metrology, standards, and accreditation. The index is supported by Physikalisch PTB and Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, Germany. My goodness, these are all German names. It is. India's overall rank is 10th, which is 5th in accreditation and 9th in standardization and 21th in metrology. Moving on to XR Startup Program, MeitY's Startup Hub under the Ministry of Electronic and Information Technology, that is MeitY, and Meta have announced a list of 120 startups and innovators for XR Startup Program. It was launched in 2022. Its aim is to discover, nurture, and accelerate extended reality, that is XR technology startups and innovators across India. Now, extended reality is an umbrella term referring to all real and virtual combined environments and human-machine interactions generated by computer technology and wearables. It includes augmented, mixed, and virtual reality and combines the real and digital worlds to create new kinds of interactivity and perceptions. These technologies provide new ways to train, educate, entertain, and collaborate. So virtual reality visually takes the user out of their real world environment into a virtual environment, typically using a headset for viewing coupled with handheld controllers to navigate the virtual space. Now, augmented reality overlays digital objects such as information, graphics, sounds on the real world, allowing the users to experience the relationship between the digital and physical world. Now, extended reality refers to the spectrum of experiences that blurs the line between real world and the stimulated world. The technology immerses the user through visuals, audio, and potentially olfactory and haptic cues. The two major types of extended reality are virtual reality and augmented reality. Moving on to puny judges, the word puny has French origin, which means later born or younger. The term puny judge is used in common law countries to refer to judges who are ranked lower in seniority. That is, any judge other than the Chief Justice of that court would be called puny judge. In India, all judges have the same judicial power, but the Chief Justice is senior most judge and has an additional administrative role. Moving on to e-courts project, the union budget has allocated 7,000 crore for phase 3 of the e-courts project. It was conceptualized on the basis of National Policy and Action Plan for Implementation of Information and Communication Technology in Indian Judiciary in 2005. Its aim is to improve access to justice using technology. The project envisages initiatives like digital and paperless courts, limiting the use of paper and speeding up the disposal of cases. Online court to eliminate the need for physical presence of litigants or lawyers in the court. Expansion of scope of virtual courts. Moving on to ABCD campaign, now Wayanad, Kerala has become the first district in country to provide basic documents and facilities like Aadhaar, ration, birth certificate, death certificates, health insurance, etc. to all tribes people under the Akshay Big Campaign for Document Digitization Campaign. That is ABCD, Akshay Big Campaign for Document Digitization Campaign. All such services are provided at single point of contact. Moving on to Yuva Sangam portal. Now, the Union government has launched the Yuva Sangam portal. It aims to build close ties between the youth of the Northeast region and the rest of India under the spirit of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat. The youth of 18 to 30 years from Northeast will get an opportunity to see different states of the country, to understand their art, culture, and language. It will also give an opportunity to them to celebrate the ancient culture and natural diversity of India. Moving on to Advanced Traffic Management System, that is ATMS. The National Highway Authority of India is implementing the ATMS on national highways and expressways for managing incidents of road crashes and enforcement of regulations like speed limits, ATMs involves intelligently integrated roadside equipments that are connected to ensure smooth traffic movement and timely reaction to untoward incidents. The ATMs have already been implemented for around 3,000 kilometers of national highway. It utilizes digital database of vehicles to get information related to insurance status of the vehicle, pollution certificate, age of the vehicle, etc. Now, NHAI is looking at the leveraging GIS technology for analyzing drone videos and network survey vehicle data for identifying safety issues on highways. Moving on to Bhasini, it is an artificial intelligence-led language translation platform. The platform is part of the National Language Translation Mission. It aims to enable all Indian to have easy access to internet and digital services in vernacular language and to increase the content in Indian languages. Moving on to WhatsApp-based chatbot by the government. Now, Bhasini team is building a WhatsApp-based chatbot that relies on information generated by ChatGPT to return appropriate responses to queries. Now, the first application is being developed to help farmers learn about the various government schemes. The chatbot will also let users send a question via voice note. This will help farmers who are unable to type on smartphones. Moving on to Bhasadan, the project aims to crowdsource voice datasets in multiple Indian languages as part of Project Bhasini. On the project's website, people can contribute in 3 ways. That is, by recording their voice samples in multiple Indian languages by reading out a piece of text, typing out a sentence being played, translating text in one language into another. Now, PAN as an identifier in digital platforms. The government has announced that permanent account number will be used as a common identifier for all digital systems of specified government agencies. It is expected to ease the compliance of burdens of business. It will eliminate the need for repeated submissions of document, ensure authenticity of same, and lead to quicker processing of requests. Moving on to Amrit Bharat Station Scheme, the Union government plans to redevelop about 1,275 stations across India under Amrit Bharat Station Scheme. The objectives of the scheme include preparation of master plans of railway station and implementation to enhance facilities, introduction of new amenities, upgradation and replacement of existing amenities, relocate redundant or old buildings in cost-efficient manner. Moving on to UPI for NRIs. Now, NRIs, that is non-resident accounts such as non-resident external account, NRE, and non-resident ordinary account, like that is NRO, having international numbers will now be allowed into UPI payment system. Users from 10 countries will be able to avail the facility, that is Singapore, Australia, Canada, Hong Kong, Oman, Qatar, US, and Saudi Arabia, UAE, and the UK. This will enable the NRI to use UPI payment method for making utility payments in India, make purchases from e-commerce or online platforms, and make payments to physical merchants who accept UPI payments. So international number is to be used over here. Moving on to Mahila Samman Savings Certificate. The government has announced a new small savings scheme for women called Mahila Samman Savings Certificate in Union Budget 2023-24. It is one-time small savings scheme for women. The scheme will be made available for 2-year period up to March 2025. It will have a fixed interest rate of 7.5% for 2 years. The deposit can be made in the name of a woman or girl, child. The maximum deposit amount has been kept to 2 lakh rupees, and the scheme will have a partial withdrawal facility as well. Now, Mahila Samman Savings Certificate will encourage more women to adopt formal financial saving instrument as it offers highest rate of interest.